Welcome to Bright New York Corner Ministry. My name is Cindy Ann Lewis Walcott, and we are studying life lessons from the Holy Bible. These lessons are for holistic living. You don't have to be religious. Today's lesson is a lesson I call self-preservation. We are studying this lesson in Genesis chapter 43, verses 11 to 14. We're studying the story of Jacob and his children, and particularly now the relationship between Joseph, who was sold into slavery in Egypt, um, was elevated all the way up now to becoming the governor. He met his brothers who sold him away, who didn't like him, and they didn't recognize him. He's taken one of them as a hostage because he wants to see if his brothers have changed, and he wants to see how tied they are as a family and how caring they are now. And he's asked them, to go and bring their young brother, who is his brother by mom. He really wants to see his youngest brother as a surety. That they weren't spies and all this. He made up a nice story in which to hold their brother Simeon hostage. So now the sons have gone home to their dad, and they're trying to negotiate with their dad to send the youngest son down. And Joseph and Benjamin are the love of his life, because they're from the woman that he really loved, and now she's dead. So that's the only two mementos he have of that love, that special love he had with Rachel. And now they're asking him to let them take this child down to Egypt. And he's not having it. And a bit of negotiation is going on. And then the famine continues. It's raging. Each of his sons, one son even said, if I don't bring Benjamin back, you can kill my two sons. The other one says, you have me as a surety. They must go get food because the famine is raging where they are. And their father's holding on. And then finally, I think it got to the point where he had to give in. Necessity overcame his fear, because if he doesn't send them to get food, what is he afraid of, really? They're all gonna die. So he finally, I guess, come to that understanding. In the meantime, though, I think he totally forgot the promise God gave them and stuff. And fear has that way of getting into us, in that we forgot. We asked God for protection. We forgot God's promised us that he will protect us. And we tend to try and solve problems ourselves. We anticipate problems long before they happen, in fact, and then we act accordingly, which is contrary to God's word and what God promised us. So here, finally, especially in Genesis chapter 43, verse 14, he gives up. He says, if I have to lose the son, then I'm going to lose the son. I leave it all up to God. God knows best, sort of thing. And in our human understanding, is like, what was he really afraid of? We know he doesn't want to lose his son, but if the children don't, his other sons don't go there to get the food they need, they're going to be dead. So my lesson I'm taking from this is, you have to be reasonable, because this could have been avoided if earlier he said, I'm going to ask God for protection. May God bring you there safely and back, because we need the food to eat. But he kept holding out and holding out and holding out. And if he kept it up, they probably would have been dead before they can go off and get the food they needed. The famine was raging where they were, and things were hard. And his son was doing very well in Egypt, but he didn't know that. And that is a fabulous, fantastic story. And it sort of gives us the human aspect of it, because we all are likely to fall in these kinds of traps where we let fear overcome us, the fear that we think, the fear of the thing we think might happen. And so we don't move forward because we think something would happen, as opposed to finding ways to mitigate the dangers we anticipate, inviting God's protection and asking God in instead of trying to solve these problems ourselves. But finally, here he came to the realization God's still in charge, and what does he? If he lose, he lose. Because if they stay, if he sits there and keep the son to him that this governor in Egypt wants, everybody's gonna die. And I hope we can take a lesson from this. And when fear comes in, which is very natural, we all have fear. Sit down and try to analyze what's really happening. What do you need to do to preserve yourself? What do you need? Do you need to send your son down to Egypt in order to get food so you guys can continue living? And in those days, he had many other sons. So she was just being emotional. So in the end, he had to give up. Necessity, they say, is the mother of all invention. But necessity here is also the crippler of fear. So I am happy that the necessity pressed him into thinking about preserving himself and the rest of his children, as opposed to sitting in fear and holding on to his son. Going to Egypt probably was a good experience for his son also. He got to travel. Um, that's a sidebar. I hope you do like this lesson. Today, if you face these kinds of challenges where, for example, you may have to send your kids away to school or something like that, and I know it's going to be coming up soon where lots of parents, I had a cousin who, and regret it now, didn't want to send her child away to school while all the other people that got the scholarships and whatever went off to school in the US. And now her son's struggling here with a very basic education, whereas the kids that went overseas, they created all these networks, they got a top class education, because she couldn't afford to give her son a top class education here, but she held on to him for the fear of what might have happened. And fear, holding on to your children also for fear of what might happen, you may be depriving them of opportunities they need for their future, for sustenance and for preservation for them and for you. So look at this lesson again, and make the decision today, especially as parents. If your children have an opportunity to go away from you for any reason, have no fear. Ask God for the protection and believe God will protect them. And in the end, it's all up to God. No matter what we do, it's still the plan for our lives and for the world is still in God's hand. So I hope this will help you in making decisions today. And please remember to like, give me a thumbs up, share, and subscribe. Have a great day now. Bye-bye.